Happy Friday on this Betting Weekly Fast Break. Welcome in. I'm Doug Kazarian alongside professional handicapper Wes Reynolds, and we have a busy slate in the W and some breaking news. We have 3 games tonight, a couple over the weekend we'll look into, and some developing angles that we should definitely dive into that affect the futures market across the board and tonight's game. Wes, a lot of action right now across the landscape of basketball, and we will not be discussing LeBron James allegations of PEDs.
There are plenty of other platforms probably to discover that, but not here. Busy card in the W tonight. Certainly had a busy slate last night, and a lot of news breaking in the W that doesn't involve Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, this involves the Golden State Valkyries, the best story in the league, if you will, in terms of the underdog in the playoff picture. And last time we were on the show, we both recommended Golden State to miss the playoffs at plus money. Well, that significantly is going to change when BetRivers Oddsmakers reposted because Kayla Thornton underwent season-ending knee surgery. She's the best player on the team in my eyes, the glue in a lot of ways. So that's going to be a significant blow because they're on the outside looking in. Now, there's a lot of teams in that mix, but the Sparks are coming up the standings. They won a few games in a row. We think other teams are going to continue to hang around like the Washington Mystics. We'll see about the Fever, but they're still good. They're just not great without Caitlin Clark, and she's sort of being reevaluated. Her timetable for return is undetermined. They're playing the long game there. So a lot of moving parts here. Now, the Valkyries are in action tonight. We'll start with them. They were 5.5-point favorites. Now they're 4. And yes, that's only a 1.5-point move. But we talk about key numbers in football. Well, there's key numbers in basketball. 5.5 to 4, very significant. 11 to 9.5, not as significant because the common margins of victory. So that's something to keep in mind. But Valk's home favorites here with the Dallas Wings in town, 162.5. And I'm expecting a spirited effort from Golden State to start. How are you seeing this game?
Probably the same as you are. Dallas, of course, big win against Seattle the other night where they blew them out up there in Seattle. But no Skylar Diggins. She did not play the first game after the break. But that was probably the best performance I saw out of Dallas. So it's like, do I want to buy? Is there something here? Like we've kind of seen with the Sparks lately where they've won a few in a row and starting to play better. Or was that just kind of a one-hit wonder? With Thornton being out, I'm trying to figure out how to attack. And maybe I'm trying to think of how you would attack the props. Like who would be the beneficiary really with Kayla Thornton being out? Maybe it's Janelle Salon. That she sees a few more minutes. So I don't know if I'm going to do it the first game though, because I'm always worried that first game because you kind of want to see, okay, how is the rotation going to shake out? So I don't know if I'm going to play it tonight, but would maybe lean a little bit over her points because I just think she gets more clock and probably more touches without Thornton. Veronica Burton, clearly the second leading scorer, so that's somebody I guess that you could look at, but I don't know if I'm going to do anything with this game, at least for right now. Sometimes I want to see because I got burned on that the other night where I had to actually buy out. One I gave out on the show was Kalia Copper over points, and then they came out and said, no, Nate Tippett said she's on a minutes restriction. So, then it's like I got to buy out and just juice out, which I eventually did. And so, and we'll get to the Mercury momentarily, but that first game, you never really know. And, sometimes you got to wait and see, okay, how is this going to be to see if there's going to be a pattern emerge. But I would think Janelle Salon would be the one that would benefit the most, at least offensively, with Kayla Thornton being out because it's got to come from somewhere. And I would think it would be from her.
Our awesome graphics team just put it up on the board when you mentioned it. So Salon's 11.5 points, minus 107 to the over. I could see that. I just think it's a great spot for Golden State across the board. Couple things. A, they limped into the break, 1-4, right? And this is not a team that's going to be still hungover from the weekend. They are going to be on point. I think Natalie Nakase is going to have them ready because they're sniffing playoffs. 2, giant flat spot for the Wings. Now, Arike is going to have those games where she goes off and is hitting things, but I still don't think all the pieces fit, and they don't play any defense. And to your point, Seattle was a little bit of a hangover. Remember, NECA is the Players Union president. No Skylar Diggins. There were some moving parts there. So I'm going to throw away that game, although the Wings are playing a little better. So I'm going to back the Valkyries first quarter, first half. They've been world beaters against the number in the first half. So I'm going to play. I usually do a half unit, so I'm going to do a quarter unit on each. I think the spot screams first quarter, but they've been so good against everyone first half. Now, they've been better in the underdog role. I will say that, but the spot really favors them. So I'll go a quarter unit. Valkyries on the three-way line. So that's minus a half first quarter, minus 120. And then first half, -2, minus 120. So I'm going to do a quarter unit on each. I really think they're going to score at will against a Wings team that doesn't play defense. And I think they're going to defend. And I do like the first half line because I think their second unit is really solid. That starts the second quarter. Things will obviously change with Thornton's absence, but Nikase knows what she's doing. I think they're going to come out like gangbusters. I think the spot screams Valkyrie, so I have to bet them early in the game.
You know what? That I might join you actually on that. I was looking at the total at first at around 163, but the Wings, the defense for the Wings is virtually non-existent, and they have not figured that out. So even though Golden State has been one of the better defenses in the league, I'm going to leave the total alone. I think that's a good angle, actually, in the first half, because that's where the sense of urgency is going to kick in the most, right? You know, hey, we're down our all-star player, Kayla Thornton. We got to come out and get this right. We've lost a couple in a row, and now they are perilously close to perhaps falling out. Now, there's still, close to 20 games left for all these teams, but they're perilously close from falling out, I believe, of that playoff spot right now. Just checking the order here, and actually they would be out. They're out by half a game from the Washington Mystics, who would be the 8th seed. Remember, 13 teams, 8 teams make the playoffs here. They don't do it by conferences necessarily. They do it by the top 8 teams. So the Valkyries would be out. So I think I'm going to join you on that -2 for Golden State. If you want to lay money line, I think it's 180 at BetRivers. You may be able to find others. I don't know, but that's about kind of like market average. But I'll just go ahead and lay the 2 instead of laying the kind of expensive money line here.
Okay. All right. So, I laid the 2 in the first half, -120. Again, quarter unit for each, that in the first quarter line. And just a reminder, like and subscribe here on the YouTube channel. BetRivers Network does a wonderful job. Bunch of shows under the Betting Weekly umbrella, but that is the currency in the YouTube world. So we'd appreciate the likes and subscribes. It's how we maintain everything being free. And if you like what you hear on our shows, sign up for the newsletter, get exclusive tips and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free, the best 4 letters, free at bettingweeklystudios.com. So that's the late game. We have 2 other games and some interesting spots as well. The Aces, valiant effort in Indiana, lose to the Caitlin Clark-less Indiana Fever. So now it's back-to-back, and they get the team with the best record in the league, the Minnesota Lynx, -9.5 at home against the Aces, who looked good coming out of the gates against the Atlanta Dream. Won by 15, but then lose to Indiana on the road. Now it's back-to-back. 9.5-point home favorites are the Lynx, who have the best record in the league. Over-under 162. That's come up a little bit. It was 159.5 on the overnight line. I still think it's a little short, although I lean Lynx more than anything in this game. What about you, Wes?
Yeah, Ace is getting some support here off the back-to-back. The Aces with the Fever, very good second half. And really the difference was the Fever 11 of 23 from 3. The Aces just 2 of 15 from the 3 last night. And that was essentially your ball game. Fever win 80-70 by 10. Couple props I would be willing to look at, and the market is certainly going to the over. And a couple of the props I do like on the Aces side are on the over side if they appear at BetRivers later today. Jackie Young actually had a very good offensive game last night, despite the fact that nobody could make a 3 for the Aces. She had 19 points, very efficient. 14.5 is basically the number. There may be some 13.5s that emerge or still out there. Jackie Young over points is something I like because it can't be all A'ja Wilson. It can't be all her every single night. So it has to be Jackie Young. Chelsea Gray's been inconsistent. Jewel Lloyd has been a major disappointment for the Las Vegas Aces. So Jackie Young, it's going to have to be her. So I like her over points. And then something I'm kind of seeing now, Nalissa Smith, I think, is kind of getting more comfortable, even though this team is not playing well. And I don't think this series, team really has a high ceiling necessarily. I don't think the Aces. I think their championship window is closed, but they'll have good games where they'll look like, okay, you can maybe believe in them, and then they'll disappoint you, like the dream game, and then they'll disappoint you like they did last night. But Nalissa Smith over rebounds. At 5.5, I think is what the consensus number is out there. She had 10 last night. She had a double-double last night against her old team, the Indiana Fever. I think she's getting, maybe a little bit more comfortable. The offense can be kind of hit and miss, but the Lynx, not a very good rebounding team. That's one of the very few things that they don't do well. So you can get rebounds against this team. I don't think they're that good of a rebounding team, because Alana Smith kind of stays, steps to the outside to shoot. So she's not like a pure post person, nor is Bridget Carlton. So that's why I think like Fee is probably their best rebounder, because she's like all over the floor. But Nalissa Smith over rebounds for me. But yeah, a little bit of a curious move to the Aces, though. Now seeing some 9.5s out there. So the back-to-backs haven't necessarily killed these teams. Necessarily, at least in these spots. We saw it with Atlanta the other night. They beat the Mercury after they looked so bad on national television against the Aces, losing by 15, and then the market comes against them, and it was all dream in the second half. Now, that was part Mercury, bringing some players back slowly from injury, which we'll get to in a minute, but I don't know what I'm going to do at the side. It is a little bit of a curious move to the Aces, but I just like those two props.
I was going to say, sometimes the Aces look long in the tooth, right? Whether it's Chelsea Gray and her bad knees and things like that. What do you make of the back-to-back travel here?
Yeah, it could be difficult because this is an older team. I saw somebody refer to them on X as the washed Vegas Aces. And they kind of, they kind of seem a little bit sometimes like they are. You still have Wilson and Young, but they just didn't do anything for the depth of this team. I like the youngster Nye. Even though she was a non-factor last night, I've seen enough of her to think that she's going to be a decent player for this team. But they're old. You look in the backcourt, Dana Evans comes off the bench. She's, I think, well past her prime. Jewel Lloyd is looking that way as well. Chelsea Gray has never been the same since she had that injury a couple years ago. She'll have her moments still, but I just think this team's going to need a reset, and they're going to be struggling to make the playoffs. I think, what are they, the 7 seed right now? With the loss to the Fever. I still think they're good enough to make the playoffs just because there's not enough good teams behind them that can catch them. But this is not a championship team anymore, in my opinion. I think going into the season, we thought they're still in the Big Four with what we thought was the Lynx, Liberty, who are still there, and potentially the Fever. But obviously they've been up and down and had their injuries. So, yeah, I think they give a good effort here, and certainly the market does as well. But I don't know if I'm going to touch this. If you made me, I'd take the double digits with the Aces, but I'll just stick with the 2 props.
If you made me, I'd take the Lynx, and I still may come off the bench and play it. It's one thing for the Mercury and Dream, like that game for Atlanta, back-to-backs, all that, but it's a little different. Futures market, Albert Nguyen, a couple weeks ago said that he liked the Aces to miss the playoffs at plus 750, I believe it was. It's now plus 575. You just discussed the standings and how there's a lot of teams. And like I said, the Sparks have come up a little bit, won a few games. Someone's going to miss out. Aces to miss the playoffs, plus 575. Fever, plus 750 with no definitive timetable for Caitlin Clark's return. You can't bet the yes on either of these. So to make the playoffs, the no. Would you take a flyer at either of these, Fever or Aces? I mean, the Mystics might fade. They're likely to fade. We'll see. But they offer intriguing prices.
I would not. I think the Fever still have enough. And we've seen, the record is better, obviously, with Caitlin on the floor. So let's settle that debate. They're not better with her out. Okay. There are certain things that switch, but in terms of defensive responsibilities, but they're not better without her, but they have won games without her. So they've proven that they can do it. I still think the Fever have enough to make the playoffs. I still think AB playing well. Flash Howard, by the way, had a terrific game for the Fever last night. I think she had 18 and 13. Sophie Cunningham has finally given you some consistency. she's finally making shots. And that's what we talked about in the preseason, that she was going to end up being a big acquisition. Then she started slow. It's like, man, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work. And then all of a sudden she's been consistent. Now, Lexi Hall has fallen off a little bit, but she still brings defense and rebounding. Just her shot's not going right now. And Kelsey Mitchell can still score. Like she'll take plenty of shots too. I think she was 8 of 24, by the way, last night against the Aces, but still led all scorers with 21. So I still think the Fever have enough to make the playoffs. And now I actually, maybe 2 days ago, I thought, okay, Caitlin Clark, I don't think she's going to play the rest of the season. Now I think there's a possibility because they got good news. There's no structural damage, but they're going to bring her along slowly, and they should. They should. Don't rush her back necessarily right now. If she's good to go, she'll know when she's good to go. But I still think they got enough to make the playoffs.
Okay, so nothing on the 750. What about the Aces 575?
That's a little bit more tempting, but gosh, right. do you really?
It is tempting, isn't it?
Do you really want to bet against Aja Wilson and just her will and her determination? Because we've seen her carry this team before. Now, she can't do it every night. That's why you need, Jackie Young to be really consistent and Alyssa Smith to come along, and something out of these other two guards, please, if you're an Aces partisan or backer or fan. And you're just not getting it, a lot of nights. But I just think when you have, arguably, even though I think Fee is the MVP, you could still, I think, say that Aja Wilson is the best player in the WNBA. I just don't see them missing the playoffs with her.
I do. I think 575 is worth a play. I think they got major issues. And now with, the league going towards a more athletic 3-and-D sort of vibe, and we've talked about it. And then also just the 3-point shooting is a great equalizer. You mentioned the 2 of 15 for Vegas last night. Like, they are washed. And that's why Becky Hammond's going to some of the reserves to develop it. That's why they traded a first-round pick for Nalissa Smith. And it's mind-boggling, right? So they needed those reinforcements and just to make the playoffs. I thought Jewel Lloyd would be better. She stinks. Jackie Young's a beta, not an alpha, so sometimes she gets lost in the shuffle. Ooh, I like what Marvin's saying here. Aces should trade for Arike. I like it.
That's some offense.
Becky Hammond could straighten her out, but question is, do they have enough assets to give? Like, the picks won't be good enough. What do you give? Like, I don't think Dallas wants, Jewel Lloyd.
No.
I mean, you don't trade Jackie Young. I'd rather have Jackie Young than Arike. So what do you have to trade? You don't have any young pieces. I love what VillaFan20 says. You can't get rid of me tonight, Doug. Looking forward to watching this live as well. Cash tickets pay the same whether you understand it. That's because he's watching live over in the UK on a Friday night. His wife's out of the house, so he's watching live and loving it. And he shared that on the baseball show we just taped and Betting Weekly Hardball. So good to have him chiming in. So Aces, yes. Or sorry, the no is tempting at plus 575. The other game left on tonight's docket, Liberty hosting Phoenix. This line has come up from 6 to 7 at BetRivers. Your total 170.5. Mercury just lost at home as a favorite by about 6 with Atlanta in town. The Mercury's big three back intact with Copper, Sabally, and of course Alyssa Thomas, but they didn't look good in their last game. Now they go to New York, who looked great. Adam Mieselman and Jonquel Jones is back in the mix as well for New York. So the defending champs are the betting favorites this year. They look like they're in a groove, but Phoenix has a way of disrupting things, particularly Alyssa Thomas does.
Yeah, certainly they do. I still think that, and we're seeing a little bit of money come in on the Copper under props. I still think she might be on a minutes restriction, only one game back. We saw Sabally, who we talked about last time on Wednesday. She went under her points prop as well last time out. I think she'll be brought along faster than Copper because Copper has been out for a while. Sabali's just only missed a couple games. So it's going to be a minute, I think, for them. So one prop I do like, I think at BetRivers, it's 9.5 now. I like Sammy Whitcomb over points tonight at 9.5. I actually bet some 8.5 with some heavier juice earlier, but we saw her, I think, a couple weeks ago. Like, her point totals were like 12.5, right? And right. She had that big 30-some point career high, 36 points, and then it might have got too high, but they were double digits, and now they're 8.5, 9.5. they're still going to bring Copper along a little bit slowly. This total is at 171.5. It's gone up from 169.5. So scoring comes from somewhere, I think from Phoenix. And I think it could come from her from the 3-point line. So I like Sammy Whitcomb over 9.5 points. I would still play it even on the bump from 8.5. And then one I'm looking at on the New York side, Breanna Stewart over 6.5 rebounds for me is one I would look at. I actually played her points, rebounds, and assists. Ended up doing that the other night, and she went under. But Stewie doesn't leave the floor a lot. And I noticed that watching the game, it's like, man, they don't really rest her all that often. Like, she's going to get her full minutes. I think she ended up playing 36 minutes, the most of anybody. It was Sabrina that got kind of the rest. And, yeah, played her 36 minutes, despite the fact Jonquel Jones came back 18-9. First game back, I think it shattered expectations. Stewie only had 4 rebounds. I think she goes over 6.5, though, tonight. You look at the Mercury. This is not a very big team in terms of size necessarily. Like, I don't really think that they have like the true post presence necessarily like they used to always have with Brittany Griner, right? Even though they have Kalani Brown, but she kind of plays limited minutes. So I think Stewart and company, they can get a lot of rebounds here against this team. So I like over 6.5. Number, I think,
an official play for you.
Yeah, we'll do that, and Whitcomb an official play as well. And then keep an eye on BetRivers to see if those ones in the Aces game become available. Sometimes they will later in the day, but yeah, we'll go Stewart over rebound 6.5, Whitcomb over 9.5 points.
So on your screen, Stewart over 6.5 minus 122, Whitcomb's over 9.5 minus 112. I'll give you a little pushback on the Stewie. I personally would actually look at the under. So her rebounds skyrocket when Jonquel Jones is out of the lineup. She plays a bunch of minutes, as you were alluding to, and she goes up. And when she's not, she being Jones, not in the lineup, Stewart's at like 6 or less, so between 4 and 6. So I'd be a little gun shy there. I love your Whitcomb play. I think that's a really sharp angle. But, we'll see. I mean, Alyssa Thomas tends to gobble rebounds. Mack, the center for Phoenix, will as well. This is a revenge factor. So I don't know if people remember, there was a West Coast trip for New York earlier this year, no Jonquel, and they lost 4 of 5. They got their heads kicked in. They've lost to Phoenix twice this year, at home by 8, on the road by 15. So maybe this is a good spot to play the Liberty, who are starting to get people back, as I mentioned, with Jonquel Jones returning. She was on a minutes count in the last game, but she still played 23 minutes. You got Mieselman going to play soon. So there's a lot to like with the Libs. But I'd be careful on that Stewart prop. Just my 2 cents, unsolicited, Wes.
Well, let me hit it back to you, because keep in mind, Jones was very efficient in that game over the Fever on Tuesday night. Keep in mind, though, she's still not going to play her full minutes. Like, it's going to take 3 or 4 games. Right. She only played 23 minutes, Jonquel Jones. And that game, by the way, even though it ended up being a 14-point win, that game was nip and tuck until like about 4 or 5 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. And then the Liberty kind of pulled away. Like, that was a 2-point game going into the fourth quarter. So those were high leverage minutes, and you still didn't see Jonquel Jones play 30 minutes. So I still think she's a little bit on a pitch count here, even though she was pretty darn efficient, got a lot of the damage done in the first half. So I'm still going to roll with the Stewie over 6.5. Seemingly the market is agreeing with that because there's not a lot of, gobble up rebounds off the bench. I guess Izzy Harrison can from time to time, but I'm gonna stick with Breanna Stewart over the rebounds here at 6.5.
What do you make of her 3-point shooting? Career low 20% this year. She's 3 for her last 22. It just hasn't been the same this year. I can't figure it out. What do you make of it?
Yeah, she's been off a little bit, and I really wish I could give you a reason for what that is, but it's just been off. And we know Sabrina can be hit and miss, and then she could catch fire like she did in the 3-point contest last Friday night for All-Star Weekend. But I think maybe it's just part and parcel of going with new players, because Phoebich certainly has more of a role than she did last year as a rookie, because keep in mind who left the Liberty last year. Thornton left, and there was another player that was part of the rotation.
Oh, no, she's on the team.
Well, Lainey Hamilton is
Well,
out.
Sloot. They lost Sloot.
Yeah, they did lose Sloot. So Febich is taking some of that as well. And then Natasha Cloud, even though she's more of a defensive player, certainly she can give you some offense. So she takes some of the shots. But I just think she's been off a little bit, and she's still having a really good year. But you have seen that 3-point shooting drop, but that's no different than some other players too. We've seen it in Indiana this year with Clark. Now, some of that is the injury, of course. Lexi Hall, without Caitlin Clark, going back to our Fever discussion, without Caitlin Clark, she's just been out of rhythm. I think shooting the ball, because they have a really good chemistry. So I don't know if I'm willing to push the panic button on that yet, but we've certainly seen a pretty precipitous drop in that 3-point percentage, even though she's still finding ways to score. Had 17 the other night in the win.
I have a twist to your Sammy Whitcomb prop. So you have over 9.5 minus 112. The market went from 8.5 to 9.5. What do you think of her 3 points prop? It's 1.5 made 3-pointers. Now it's minus 175, but it's hard for her to go to 10 points or more without making 2 threes. She does shoot 2-pointers. She's not just a 3-point. She gets free throws. She gets fouled a lot. So she does a nice job initiating contact when she drives. Now could be a different sort of flow of things with Sabali and with Copper in the lineup, although Copper on a minutes count. She plays off the ball really well. She's catch and shoot. She's bombs. I kind of like this option instead. Whitcomb over 1.5, parlayed to the Lynx money line.
No, I don't disagree with it at all. And I think the market certainly agrees. And looking around at different numbers, the average is kind of like 170 in the market. Maybe a couple places have less, but I think that's probably, if you think she's going to go over points, she's probably going to hit 2 threes to be able to do that. So those props have moved kind of in motion, or at least with each other in terms of the points, in terms of the 3 points. So, because sometimes when you look at these player props, you will see one doesn't move as quickly as the other, and that's where you can take advantage. But these guys, they've been parallel, I think, in terms of the movement today. So I don't disagree with the 3-point prop at all.
Okay, so that's something I wanted to throw it out. Now, I got a little too cute with Alicia Gray the other night. Instead of making 3+ threes, I went 2+ and money line for Phoenix, and of course Atlanta won outright. So I got burned there, and she ended up having a 3rd 3 late. So that did burn me. That happens, and it is what it is. Question for you. Let's look ahead to the Saturday games real quickly. We have 2, one on national television. Sparks visit the Liberty. So New York hosting games on back-to-back nights. LA in town, coming off 4 straight wins, 4 games where they've scored 90+ points. So the offense is clicking, and they did it 2 games ago, even with Kelsey Plum having kind of a dud of a game. This feels like a very high-scoring game. Do you have that read as well?
I do, because much will be made of Kelsey Plum scoring 30 last night, but they've got multiple scorers now. And, Derica Hamby has been certainly getting her numbers. And Azure Stevens, she's the one that's really come along, I think, for this team, and had her over points last night. And she ended up smashing that. It hasn't been Rakia Jackson, who I thought maybe in her sophomore year was going to step up and provide, I think, more consistent offense. Only had 4 last night after she had 22 each of the last 2 games against the Mystics. But it's been Stevens that I think that's the player that has made the leap the most for me, for the LA Sparks.
Well, she was banged up a lot, Azure Stevens. I mean, she missed some time. She's in the discussion for comeback player of the year. I don't think, or most improved. Sorry, I don't think she'll win it, because I think she's too inconsistent, but she is a nice piece. I mean, 6'4" or something like that, can shoot threes, plays on the block as well. She's a nice player, all things considered.
And the guards, because you forget about the guards when it's Kelsey Plum that takes most of the shots from that position. But I think Julie Alleman last night, I believe, had 12, and Julie Van Loo had 9. Now, some of that was in garbage time. But if you could just get some consistency out of those other guards, because Sarah Ashley Barker, the first-round pick from Alabama, has kind of been relegated to the spot minutes. They were using her a little bit in the starting lineup and playing her more minutes, but has been playing less of late. But yeah, the Sparks are scoring points, and we know Lynn Roberts, who came in, she was the head coach at University of Utah, that they wanted to run a little bit more. And they certainly have, put over 100 against Connecticut last night, and Connecticut's the pits. Like, Connecticut isn't making the playoffs, but you look at these last games, 93 at the Mystics, 99 against the Mystics, 92 against Connecticut the game before. So they've been hitting over 90 in each of their last 4 games. So probably with nothing up yet because of the Liberty play tonight, I'd rather be on the over than be on the under, but you're probably going to have a pretty high ticket there, at least on the number.
Yeah. Well, it all depends what it comes out at. So that game is tomorrow on national television. Also tomorrow, but earlier in the day, is the UFC card. And just another podcast under the BetRivers Network. We want you to check it out. Betting Weekly Fight Life with Kyle Andrew and Paul Hughes as they discuss Saturday's UFC Fight Night, Whitaker against DeRitter. That is in Abu Dhabi, if I'm not mistaken. Kyle really knows his stuff. So does Paul. They do a great job breaking it down. I listen to it every week to help me with my plays. So I certainly would recommend it in that regard. One other game tomorrow that, just kind of take the temperature. And this is a revenge spot as well, much like the Liberty and Mercury are tonight. Tomorrow we have the Mystics hosting the Storm. Seattle just lost at home to Washington, I believe the Sunday before the All-Star break. Storm off a rocking chair win, good bounce back spot yesterday. 5-point road favorites, probably going to be in DC. Now the Mystics coming back to earth. They just lost a tough one at home to the Sparks. LA played pretty well. It was a high-scoring game. This Mystics team's good. Sid Johnson's doing a wonderful job in his first year in the nation's capital. Seattle back at full strength last night with Skylar Diggins returning from her missed game early in the week right after the All-Star break. I feel like Storm are going to go on a little bit of a run now. They have some nice pieces. I think they're a tough out. But on the road, even the revenge factor, not in a rush to lay points. I like this Mystics team, but I just wonder if the shine is going to wear off a little bit because they're a little thin in the middle, as much as I like Shakira Austin.
Yeah, and I would lean Storm here as well. Sonia Citron, who I'm a big fan of out of Notre Dame, has kind of hit the rookie wall, I think, a little bit. I don't know if that's happened.
The All-Star break helped.
Yeah, and I like that hasn't happened with Kiki Arifin as of yet, but there's a lot to like about this Mystics team. Like, I think they're a bye team long term because let's not forget Georgia Moore has not played all year due to an injury, and then Lucy Olson out of Iowa, who is the Villanova transfer.
She's awesome.
They've got a lot of really young talent on this team, and I think that this is going to be, if they can figure out what they're doing with Aaliyah Edwards. And let's not forget Jade Melbourne is only 22 and has only played 2 years in the league, so there's a lot of good young players on this team. If they could keep a veteran presence, maybe it's Shakira Austin, maybe it's Brittany Sykes, but I would lean Storm here. I just think, they're a team I kind of trust a little bit more. Skylar Diggins did come back. They did beat the Sky last night. Now, that was what that Sky team. And going back to your playoffs, like about the Aces to miss the playoffs, that's where you got to consider, okay, we know there's 3 teams that have no chance to make the playoffs. Sky aren't making the playoffs. Connecticut's not making the playoffs. God, who's the other bad team now?
Wings,
I forget. The Wings. They have talent, but I don't think they're going to put it together to make the playoffs. So there's 3 teams that are out of it. So, that reduces your options. But this Seattle team, look, they can be a little bit hit and miss, but they get Skylar back. I like when Erica Wheeler comes off the bench a little bit more because I think, she's been starting some games, but I like when she comes off the bench. She's instant offense, and I think she's found a role with the Seattle team that she never had with the Fever last year. Of course, Gabby Williams, one of the tougher wings to guard in the league, and the one that's got to get going though is McBagger. You need a little bit more consistency out of her because the young one that they drafted out of France, Malonga, she gets some minutes, but she plays a lot of mop up.
She's a project.
Like, she's not ready. So that's,
she's 19.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. And Alicia Clark, from the Las Vegas, 13th year in the league. So McBagger, I think, is the key. Like, she's got to be better for this team. I think what you're going to get out of Sky Dig. I think what you're going to get out of Aneka. and Gabby Williams and Wheeler, whether she starts or off the bench. But I would lean Seattle tomorrow, but I don't know if I really want to lay points because I do like this Mystics team. They're just hitting a little bit of walls because they play in so many rookies.
And in terms of the Sparks, who've won 4 straight, we have a comment on the YouTube page. Dirty Reg 22 says, my Sparks are going to make it, which we love the enthusiasm. They're getting hot. Cam Brink is supposed to return shortly for LA. And the yes-no market at BetRivers, the yes is plus 330. And I know there's a couple teams in their way, and they're running out of real estate and landing area because there's only about 20 games left for the Sparks. What do you make of the plus 330? I wouldn't play it. I would need 450-ish just because I'd rather be betting on them. But they're going to have tough games, man. They're going to have tough games to play, and they're going to have like the Liberty tomorrow. I'd rather bet this after playing the Liberty because I don't think they're going to get the win.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think, and some that clearly has come down with the Sparks recently, 4-game winning streak, 5 of the last 6. But now the schedule gets tougher. You do get New York. You do have Las Vegas. By the way, the Sparks have been better on the road than they have been at home. They've been lousy at home. Then you go to Seattle. Then you get the Fever. By the way, the Sparks, this is August 5th on a Tuesday. Sparks have beaten the Fever twice. So you know that the Fever, you got to think that they're going to be ready for that game. They've been beaten twice at home by this team. So you do get some tough schedules, and you get another game with Seattle during the month. You get another game with New York. You get a game with Phoenix. So the schedule at the start of the month here in August, I think, is really difficult for the Sparks.
Yeah, I'd be careful there. It's exciting. They're on a roll, but usually you want to zig when everyone else zags, things along those lines. Quick injury note. We mentioned the Valkyries. I'm okay still playing it, though, but Monique Billings with an ankle injury, she's questionable tonight. So that is something to keep in mind, obviously, with Kayla Thornton out. Domino effect. But they do have depth. They do have solid depth, and I believe in Natalie Nakase in a lot of ways. I think she's clearly the better coach in this matchup. Not a big fan of the Wings coach, am I? And Valhalla will certainly be rocking in a spirited effort, circle the wagons with obviously a team that's shorthanded playing with some injuries. All right, Wes, good stuff as always. That's going to do it for this edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. For Wes and the entire team behind the scenes that does such a wonderful job doing the heavy lifting, making things look good. I'm Doug Kazarian. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you back here all next week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Enjoy your weekend.